Hello and welcome to my presentation of Achievement versus Growth. My name is Ryan Cunnane, and this is my audio-visual presentation for urban education. Okay, so there was about a year ago a interview process that goes on whenever there's a new education secretary within the Senate. And right here we see pictured Senator Al Franken questioning Education Secretary nominee Betsy DeVos. This is where we got into achievement versus growth in a way that really helps explain exactly how it works. So I'm going to get right into it and show you or let you listen to a clip.
Mentioned proficiency in the NAEP test, and it just reminded me of this. When I first got in the Senate in 2009, I had a roundtable of principals, and one of the principals in Minnesota, and he said, we think of the NCLB test as autopsies. And I knew exactly what he meant, because what he was saying is that the students take the test in late April. If they're lucky, they get them back in late June. The teachers can't use the results to inform their instruction. So I saw that in Minnesota, that in addition to the NCLB test, a lot of schools, majority of schools, were taking a computer adaptive test. A computer test so you get the results right away, and adaptive so that you can measure outside of grade level. And this brings me to the issue.
Okay, so before Senator Al Franken gets into achievement versus growth, I just want to touch quickly on a great point there, which is how for many years now, many states are sending away their achievement testing, and they're not getting them back till much later in the year, which leaves teachers with results that they really can't do anything with by the time, because the school year is about over by the time they're getting these results. Now they are implementing these computer testing now, which is a great way to help use the achievement testing towards determining how we're teaching these students and where they're at in terms of their learning with their proficiency rather in English and math and sometimes subjects further like science and history. Okay, so going back right into it.
Of proficiency, which the senator cited, versus growth. And I would like your views on the relative advantage of measuring, doing assessments and using them to measure proficiency or to measure growth.
Thank you, Senator, for that question. I think if I'm understanding your question correctly around proficiency, I would also correlate it to competency and mastery, so that each student is measured according to the advancement that they're making in each subject area.
Well, that's growth. That's not proficiency. So in other words, the growth they're making is in growth. The proficiency is an arbitrary standard.
If they've reached a level, the proficiency is if they've reached a like third grade level for reading, etc.
No, I'm talking about the debate between proficiency and growth.
Yes.
And what your thoughts are on them.
Well, I was just asking to clarify then.
Well, this is a subject that has been debated in the education community for years. And I've advocated growth, as the chairman and every member of this committee knows, because with proficiency, teachers ignore the kids at the top who are not going to fall below proficiency, and they ignore the kid at the bottom who, no matter what they do, will never get to proficiency. So I've been an advocate of growth, but it surprises me that you don't know this issue.
What a great point there by Senator Al Franken, talking about how many kids are being cast aside who don't factor into the testing results that school districts are after, in particular administration and the teachers, because obviously the funding is involved in hiring with teachers, and teachers keeping their jobs is weighing heavily on the achievement testing standards that have been put in place by the states of America. And certainly that's a real issue, and that's why growth really needs to be weighed into a curriculum much heavier than it is in certain school districts still in today's world, in particular in America. So let's get right into it. Achievement versus growth. Achievement and growth are often thought to be the same. However, their meanings are actually very different when speaking towards education. Achievement is a point in time which measures and evaluates how well students perform against a standard, normally standardized testing. In contrast, growth is measured by how much growth can be seen from students over time, typically from one year to the next. Both of these measures hold value, but they provide different information. Now, certainly both of these types of measurements should be weighed by teachers, and I think a great way to keep all this in mind is by keeping a log of teachers for each particular student, and from a day-to-day, just when there's growth being had, when there's achievement testing taking place, that it's logged in and kept into account of what's working and what's not. And obviously different ways of learning and testing need to be implemented throughout the year to keep students engaged and to find out what's working best. So, Education Week has a great quote. For years, student achievement has been measured by how well students perform on state tests, either by the mastery of standards or from set grade level expectations. Similarly, the performance of school districts and school buildings has been evaluated based on the percentage of students who pass these tests. This is what we've been talking about. This quote is continued and states, while providing some useful evaluative and student academic information, passage rates are incomplete and in some ways unfair measures of teacher effectiveness, and that's certainly the truth. Now, passage rates ignore the varying achievement levels among students and within urban, rural, and suburban communities. Teachers cannot control where students are at the beginning of the year, which is certainly the fact of the matter here, and which is where achievement is lacking. But educators can impact the progress students make while they are in the classroom, and that's certainly the truth as well. The educators can make an impact, but they can't control where students are starting out. Here we see a nice little chart here of achievement versus growth. Let's get into a couple here. Achievements measuring students' performance at a single point in time, where growth is comparing students' performance to their own prior performance. Students are their own control. There are throughout the year we're seeing how they're growing and what's working and what's not. Achievement is only at one point in time. That's a critical point between the two. Certainly achievement is typically related to socioeconomic and demographic characteristics, where growth is more closely related to teaching and schooling effectiveness. There's certainly, yes, there's varying degrees of pass-fail with achievement that are related to where a student lives and what they're dealing with, and certainly that's something we've touched on in urban education. Now we see together a more complete picture of student learning. They need to be used together. Here we see a great chart of growth versus proficiency, where we see a variety of animals, and we see the teacher up front, and he's asking the group to take the same exam, which is to climb that tree. Now, certainly that monkey's got a leg up on the competition here, and that's the problem with achievement testing. They're all taking the same test, though a lot of students test differently and show their growth in a variety of ways that isn't in the standardized testing format. Growth versus mindset, we see these quotes like failure is an opportunity to grow with growth, where in a fixed mindset, which is the achievement type of mindset, the testing type of mindset, where failure is the limit of my ability. Certainly testing is limiting in a variety of ways and really boxes in a student, where growth is really expanding them to another quote we see there, I can learn to do anything I want, where in the fixed achievement, I'm either good at it or I'm not. That's another way of showing that is a think, pair, share, where students get to work together and they're growing with that type of strategy, where in achievement they're apart, they're taking a test individually, and they're finding the results later on. And certainly that can be damaging when they see those results and seeing they're below the average. Urban education reasoning for growth. It gets basic quickly. Kids, particularly low-income kids of color, walk into public schools every day carrying a variety of burdens that have hobbled them before class even starts. They're hungry, tired, grieving, self-conscious, lost, neglected, depressed, or some combination. These are the types of things that in urban education the students are dealing with. And certainly that's why, as we see in this quote here, they have to change the way they're evaluating achievement testing. Particularly between high poverty and low poverty schools. Take this quote into mind: strength and growth come only through continued effort and struggle. Thank you for your time. Here is my works cited, and thanks for watching. Many thanks from Tom Hanks.